Good evening, this is Ethelred, the Unraid. I guess that means the Unready. And I am ready for some Civ. Let's see if we can get through. Never mind, we're not going to be able to get through there. So we're just going to leave that trireme right there. And because we recently got universities, I'm going to maybe switch some of these cities. I don't have very much in York put into a Colosseum, so let's switch that to a university. No, I don't want to be looking at this. Alright, and we've got a settler. We're going to build our last city right here next to these gems. That will cause us to... We'll probably lose 5 happiness right about the time that city founds. So I suspect we're going to dip into the negative unhappiness before we're rescued by this Colosseum. That's just the way it's going to be. So we're going to run that turn. And we're going to see if we can get this settler down. This will be the last city that I found. I don't plan on starting any more cities. I may puppet something over in the Americas. But I'm not going to start any more cities. Alright, can we get by here now? No, we can't. Meanwhile, in history, Ethelred, the Unraid, has been frantically buying off the Danes, and Swin, the Danish conqueror, is sick of it. So he goes ahead and launches an invasion of England, which Ethelred just can't do anything about. I mean, he was never a good king. He certainly wasn't a military leader. And the Danes were forging an empire right now. The Danes controlled not only Denmark, but this country that they created called Normandy, which is on the French coast. Got engineering, that's nice. I gotta catch up on my trade routes, because now I'm lacking a trade route. So Normandy is actually right... wrong continent. It's right here. So they control Denmark, and they control Normandy, and they kick Ethelred out, who goes into exile and dies, asterisk, and they take over England as well. So just like that, all of the effort of the English kings is erased, and they are under Danish law. Danelaw is what they called it. And that is Swin, or Svin, the guy who conquers England. And Svin immediately dies, and his son Knut, the conqueror, takes over. So let's see about what oh, we're done with the shrine here. I think we're going to go ahead and switch to a university, and after the university we'll do a temple, and actually after the university we'll do an amphitheater and then a temple. Unless we have serious happiness problems. Alright. And this worker will go ahead and pre-position himself on the gems, which will immediately start improving. Speaking of research, let's research metal casting. That'll enable us to build workshops, which I know York will be desperately in need of a workshop. What else? Where are we in... We are number 8 in literacy. We're not doing well in any regard, really. Soldiers were dead last. Nice. Alright, well, we'll just keep swimming. With this was the last farm I said I was going to build near York. I said I would build a farm near London. I'll go do that now. And the little trireme. Let's see if we can get you through now. Hey, look. Nice. We got through. I think this archer is going to get a shot on me, but we'll survive that. So, I want to talk about Normandy for a minute now. The Vikings, when they were on the warpath, they settled this area here, and they called it Normandy. And unlike in other parts of their empire, the Viking Empire, which eventually became the Danish Empire, they assimilated there. The conqueror who was in control of the territory of Normandy told him and his Carls that they were going to speak French, marry French women, and integrate. And they became fantastic castle builders, and they became indistinguishable from the French population, besides the fact that they weren't French. So France now did exist as a kingdom, and Normandy had separate territorial borders and had its separate rulers. But their culture was practically indistinguishable from the French. In 1018, Knut the Conqueror, the Danish overlord of England, levied a whole bunch of taxes, and he grouped the shires under jarls, which jarl would eventually become the English term earl. So you started to see, rather than a one-to-one relationship of peasants to the king as it was in Anglo-Saxon times, now with the overlaying of Danelaw and the Danish culture, you started to see shires reporting to an earl who reported to a king, and this layering of a aristocratic nobility in between the peasants who became worth less as human beings in Norman conquered, or not Norman conquered, but Viking conquered England. So, beginning of kind of a feudal system here. Knut put a whole bunch of his friends in charge of the various different parts of England, and they pretty much all backstabbed him. So he promoted a bunch of locals into titles of Jarl and whatnot in order to run the country. In 1028, just as an aside, down here in Normandy, a man named William the Bastard is born. So we're just going to sit that unit right here, and any day now, we will have our last city. Sweet, we didn't even get shot. But is there a way through or not? I don't think there is. There is no way through. This is the end. I wonder if I could ever get this ship back. No way I can circumnavigate in this ship. That means that the best I can do is travel along the northern border of Russia and try to get back to home territory where I can eventually promote the ship. Alright. Well, we'll try that. That's a long trip. Russia is huge. Alright. Okay, so what's happening in history? 1035, Knut died. He was replaced in England. So when Knut died, okay, some stuff happened here. Ooh, stealing technology. When Knut died, he had been the Dane who had overlorded everything. But when he died, Denmark got its own king, Normandy got its own king, and England got its own king. And they kind of went their separate ways a little bit. In England, a guy named Harold Harefoot became king. Let's see. William the Bastard, by the way. I said Normandy got their own king. Guess who became king of Normandy? William the Bastard, at 7 years old. Now, this guy was immediately thrown into the frying pan. Now, I know he's not English. Not exactly, right? I mean, he kind of will be. But he's not right now. But I'm telling you about him because he's so consequential. And immediately, all of the adults try to step all over him, and he really has to swim through shark-infested waters, and he does. So let's see, 1037, the English bishops here in England refused to pronounce Harold as king. So he goes through several years where he's supposed to be king, but he's not officially king. And finally, he gets enough of the earls to support him, and he gets the act done. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So 1040, Harold, only 24, is already... He never got the bishops to support him. He got enough of the earls to support him, but he was off on the wrong foot with the bishops and the clergy. So he received a visit from them. a delegation which came to him to talk about their differences. And then, according to the clergy, there was an act of God, and Harold's face turned black and he died. And then he was beheaded and thrown into a fen. So I guess we can all put two and two together about what happened there. He was succeeded by this guy named Harthacnut, one of Knut's sons from elsewhere in Denmark. And he was, quote-unquote, invited to take the throne. Despite that, he came to England from Denmark with 62 warships just to make sure that the invitation was legit. He didn't want to get here and find he was on rotten ground. And he ruled like an autocrat, like a despot, kind of like Knut had. And that only increased tensions with the earls. He also raised taxes through the roof. He didn't last long. Let's steal some technology. The compass is 11 turns rather than 5, so we'll steal compass. This means we can build harbors now and connect all of our cities. This is a major technology for us. I really want to build harbors everywhere now, but I'll have to wait. So James got promoted, probably for stealing that technology. Good job, James. And okay, next turn we'll be able to found that city. Alright. I guess we'll just follow this barbarian all the way across. That'll be maddening. So Harthacnut in 1042 got roaring drunk at a wedding, suddenly stood up bolt upright, fell down and convulsed and died. So all kinds of political mess happened when that happened, and England got its freedom back because the Danes, they just didn't know what to do now. Their politics in Denmark just wasn't up to the task of sending yet another king, yet another overlord to England. So England reasserted its independence, and they put a guy up on the throne named Edward the Confessor of the House of Wessex. So you see the House of Wessex come back into existence. And let's see, 1040, we'll go ahead and run a turn. Meanwhile, we'll start building a farm here to continue to improve our population. So William the Bastard in Normandy, by 1047, has gone through 12 years of anarchy with, I told you that Danish politics were a mess, right? So he's been the king from 7 to 19, and all the while, the elders in Normandy have been either helping him or backstabbing him or trying to assassinate him, and this guy has grown up in the school of tough knocks. I mean, he is he's a streetwise, militant, trust nobody, beat the face in kind of guy. But he's surviving. In 1050, Edward, the Confessor of England, wars his way through Scotland, which is something which is seldom done, but he does it, and he claims the Scottish throne, only to be assassinated. Oh, excuse me, I read that wrong. So he defeats Scotland, and then he assassinates the Prince of Wales. So much for being a confessor, right? So he assassinates the Prince of Wales, which turns Welsh politics into a mess. And by the time someone comes out on top in Wales, he bends the knee to Edward. So Edward has just now not only ascended to the throne of England, but got Scotland under his control and Wales under his control. Way to go, Edward. In 1055, William the Bastard manages to fight enough wars against his own kinfolk in order to assert firm control over Normandy, and then he establishes his borders. So he has literally just brought himself up by his bootstraps. And enough of that barbarian. Woohoo! Our final city, Canterbury. We're going to build a granary there, and a lighthouse, and a library maybe, and we'll reconsider things then. All right. And we'll immediately start in on the gems. So we are at 0 happiness now, and we will drop in 2 turns. But in 3 turns, this Colosseum will be complete. So it's not all bad. We will survive. You can just go ahead and... You know what? Ooh, let's upgrade that guy. Nice. And can we escape? Nope. Ah, that's the end. That's the end of the little trireme. Farewell. So... I gotta admit, I lose track of the English kings after Edward dies. I'm not exactly sure what circumstances Edward dies under, but he's succeeded by Harold, and then Harold ends up putting down a rebellion in Northumbria, I think by his own brothers. And, yeah, holy smokes, the little trireme didn't die. That's amazing. Let's just skip a turn. I don't get these barbarian galleys. They don't seem very aggressive. It absolutely could have ended me, but it didn't. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, I'm not sure what happened to Edward, but Harold came to the throne. There was a revolt in Northumbria. I think it was some of his family members who were doing it. He goes up there to deal with it, and I guess there's family tension. Maybe he doesn't win the battle there. He dies of an ulcer. And right about this time, William the Bastard becomes William the Conqueror, because that's 1066. And while Harold and his brothers are squabbling amongst themselves in or about Northumbria, William the Conqueror lands with a Norman army and marches north. These guys hear about that. They march their army south like, oh, we got bigger problems than fighting amongst each other. And they promptly get themselves obliterated by William's army. It takes like 1 day to lose that battle. And that's really the only decisive battle that happens. I think it's called the Battle of Hastings. And the English military is no more. And William the Conqueror rules England. He takes it all. 1066. Now this is a very important year for England. So I'm going to take a minute to go over a couple of things here. I do need to point out that I was wrong, that the House of Wessex does not have a claim to all of the British monarchy up to and including Elizabeth II. Elizabeth II and all of her predecessors draw their ancestry from William the Conqueror. The House of Wessex is at this point, I believe, permanently extinguished, and William the Conqueror and his progeny now rule England forever. Now, Scotland invites William in. William does not have to fight his way into Scotland. They see him as a great castle builder and an opportunity to fortify their lands. So maybe they're taking the long view with William the Conqueror. They let him in, and they actually put in some effort to assimilating to the new foreign occupiers. Wales, though, fights tooth and nail. All right, so let's skip on a little bit here. Cargo ship. Are we going to send this to Hastings? Probably. Previous route was to Copenhagen. If I don't send it there, we're going to be losing money. So that's where it's going. Because that's like the cargo route that we're existing on right now as an economy. No. Maybe I should have done that just so I could improve my relations with them. But whatever. It's too late. So, 1070, William starts building castles all over the place, all through Scotland, all through England, and his castles are way better than what the English had been building because they largely built out of wood, and he's building out of stone, and the architecture is, I guess, taller, sturdier, much more impressive, and we are unhappy now. But I predicted we'd be unhappy, and we've got a Colosseum coming online. I gotta get workboats out to work those fishing tiles. Oh, York grew. Whoop-de-doo. I would love it if I could get this hill tile and go improve that. I can't believe this trireme's still here. I'm about to just... Yeah. Well, I guess I'm just going to ignore the barbarians and try to sail home. Because at this point, I either lose it or I get it home. Really, I'm just going to lose it. It's just how many turns does it live until it dies. So, another word about our spies have uncovered that Harold Bluetooth is plotting against you. Oh, yeah? That's actually good information. So, let's take a look at Harold. It does not say that he covets my land, but I don't doubt this information. Okay, the trireme's dead. So, I think what I'm going to do, I only have cheese. Where's that other... I had another archer. Where is it? It was... Oh yeah, it was in Asia. It was over here, wasn't it? Where is that archer? Okay, right here? Ah, there we go. He's in what, India? Looks like he's in India. Okay, so that's going to be something like 20 or 30, probably 30 turns before he gets back. I think that I'm going to reorganize a little bit. I'm going to bring this composite bowman down to York, and I'm going to bring this warrior over to London. And I think that I'm going to... I want walls here. Let's build walls after the university. That's assuming that we don't get invaded before then. And the university in London, so we'll get ourselves some education. And let's take a look at the science ranking. So Korea, not surprisingly, is in front with the most population. Where are my spies? They are in Copenhagen and in Mecca. Mecca, 27 technologies compared to my 27. So I'm going to pull the spy out of Mecca, and I'm going to send him to... Yeah. I'm going to send him to Seoul, Korea. And can we negotiate peace? Not yet, huh? Okay. All right. Well, we'll click on. So, the Norman conquerors and William the Conqueror. Attila, it's a threat. That's you. You want to fight him. So... if it weren't for the fact that I think my archer is about to pass through Attila's lands, I think I would say yes. But I don't think that I care too much. No, I think that I would rather not have another war right now. So I'm going to say no to that. So the Norman conquerors, as I mentioned earlier, had assimilated to the culture of France, which means that they spoke French. All right, let's get astronomy so we can build observatories and so that we can move across the ocean. That'll be big, so we can go scout out. Actually, we should do machinery and then do astronomy so we can get our longbowmen. That makes sense, especially since maybe now the Danes are starting to plot against us. Anyway, so yeah, they spoke French, and they arrive here and they impose French. They set up their own aristocracy, and everybody there speaks French. So you get the situation where the aristocrats all speak French and the locals in England speak English. And just like with the previous pigeon, where you had English being overlaid on top of Brythonic, you now have again the same situation with French being overlaid on top of English. And if you want a job as a peasant, then you're going to have to be able to speak French. But if you want to employ people, you're going to have to speak English. And so this mush language of English with French words and a lot of French cognates is created. And that's why now in English, which English survives as a language, but it's heavily modified yet again, this time by the French, you have a lot of duplication in words. For instance, shit is the English word for it. And it seems like you're a dirty peasant when you say it. But then if you say feces, that comes from the French cognate for the same thing, but you sound so smart. You sound so aristocratic when you say it like that. Yeah, well, there's reasons for all that. Also, you might note that the words for food are all duplicated as well. And you've got this situation where you've got pig being the English word for it when it's in its sty covered in mud. But then when it's on your table and it's all carved up and it looks delicious, it's pork, which comes from the French. All right, this warrior will go ahead and just chill out. We've gone all the way up to 1100. So William has built all of his castles. Oh, wow. And it's already 30 minutes. I'll say that in 1080 that William took a comprehensive census of England. He wanted to know how many sheep were in England, how many pigs, how much property, how many bushels of everything, how much coin everybody had, and importantly, how much taxes they gave last year and could they afford to give more taxes. And they really approached the census with a lot of enthusiasm. And by that I mean the Norman overlords. The peasants called it, what they call it, the Doomsday Book. That this master document which William assembled, they called it the Doomsday Book, because now everybody owed more taxes. Which, that book exists to this day and is a fascinating snapshot into the lives of everybody in England. So talk about an invasion of privacy. 1090, William died, and on his deathbed he confessed that he had been too harsh to the locals. And which is a really nice thing to say. Unfortunately, the body wasn't even cold when panic broke out. People looted his body. I mean, that's the kind of panic that broke out. They looted his body. Everybody who owned anything in England at that time ran to go grab it, secure it in their house, and lock the door. William II took over and restored some sense and sensibility. 1096, England sent a contingent of just a few people off to the First Crusade as part of a big alliance between everybody in Europe, and they captured Jerusalem. But the contribution of England was really quite minor. In 1100, William II died under suspicious circumstances while hunting. He took an arrow, like to the lung. You know, that's not suspicious. So that was 1100, and I think we're at a stopping point. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you liked it, please click like. If you disliked it, click dislike. And if you want to subscribe to hear more, click the subscribe button. Thank you very much.